Shedeur Sanders hasn't taken over the huddle yet, but it feels like he already owns the narrative. The media has swarmed, insiders have weighed in, and every report paints the same picture. It's no longer a question of if, but when he becomes the Browns starter. With Deion Sanders adding fuel by declaring his son's ascent inevitable, the franchise is caught in a pressure cooker. The tipping point came after Cleveland's dismal outing in London, where offensive breakdowns made it impossible to ignore the glaring need for a spark. And Shedeur looks every bit like that ignition. Inside the organization,
if you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Silence is no longer an option. Coaches are reportedly split. The front office is feeling the heat, and Kevin Stefanski faces a brutal decision. Double down on his system or ride the momentum that's overtaken the city. Shedeur's calm presence and strong practices only add to the rising belief that he's ready. In a season already teetering, this shift could be the reset that determines everything, from locker room unity to front office futures. The tension in Cleveland is unlike anything the franchise has seen in years, and that's saying something for a team that has practically trademarked internal chaos. Following the Browns' underwhelming performance overseas against the Vikings, the cracks in the foundation have become impossible to ignore. Offensive struggles were already brewing before that game, but the London loss exposed it all on a global stage. Sloppy quarterback play, ineffective schemes, no rhythm, no urgency, and no results. What was once a slow burn of discontent is now a 5-alarm fire engulfing the entire organization. And at the center of it all, the quarterback position, and more specifically, the glaring question everyone's been asking. Why is Shedeur Sanders still on the bench? After all the speculation, the drama, the whispers from insiders, and the outrage from fans, the pressure around this decision has escalated to a level that feels unsustainable. It's no longer a quiet conversation about when Shedeur might get a shot. It's a full-on demand. And thanks to a single statement from Deion Sanders, his father and an NFL legend, that demand has gained the weight of inevitability. Deion didn't hedge. He didn't offer a hopeful "we'll see." He said clearly and confidently that his son will get his shot this season. That one quote flipped the entire dynamic. What was once media chatter and fan wish lists suddenly became prophecy. And the Browns? They now look like they're dragging their feet, while everyone else can see what's coming. That's the problem. When a franchise starts to look like it's reacting to outside noise rather than controlling its own narrative, the power dynamic shifts. And that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland. Fans are done waiting. After the lifeless offensive showing in London, patience ran out. Dylan Gabriel, while never viewed as a long-term franchise guy, has failed to deliver even short-term solutions. His play has been serviceable at best and uninspired at worst. The mistakes are adding up. The hesitations, the missed reads, the lack of chemistry with key receivers, and worst of all, the lack of hope. Because when your quarterback can't move the chains and your coach won't move off the plan, you start to lose the one thing no franchise can survive without: belief. That's why the chants are getting louder. That's why every highlight of Shedeur warming up gets dissected online. That's why fans are flooding social media with messages begging the organization to make the move. It's no longer about what Gabriel is doing wrong. It's about what Shedeur could do right. And the internal rumblings only reinforce the urgency. Reports of locker room frustration aren't just rumors. They're red flags. When veterans start questioning the offensive strategy, when assistant coaches are privately doubting the direction, that's not noise. That's a system on the verge of collapse. People inside the organization are reportedly fed up. They're tired of running plays that don't work, sticking to a plan that doesn't evolve, and watching a talented roster get dragged down by quarterback indecision. The longer Stefanski waits, the more that unrest festers, the more the locker room fractures. And yet, through it all, Shedeur Sanders remains a symbol of composure. While everyone else is fuming or flailing, he's calm, focused, practicing hard, waiting his turn, not demanding, not pouting, not stoking the fire, just being present. It's that quiet confidence that's turning heads, not just among fans, but reportedly inside the facility as well. People are noticing. People are talking. And that's what makes this moment feel so pivotal. This isn't just about swapping quarterbacks. It's about whether the Browns are willing to shift their identity. Are they willing to admit that the current approach isn't working? Are they willing to take a calculated risk? Because sticking with the status quo doesn't look like loyalty anymore. It looks like fear, and fear won't win football games. Not in this league. Not with this much pressure. Kevin Stefanski is in a brutal position. He's tried to hold things together, while everything around him is pulling in different directions. His loyalty to the current system is understandable. No coach wants to admit that the plan they built isn't working. But in a results-driven league, philosophy doesn't matter if the scoreboard keeps tilting the wrong way. The locker room can feel it. The fans definitely feel it. And the media, they're circling. Every outlet has shifted focus to Shedeur. Analysts are talking about him like his debut is just days away. Insiders are pointing to his leadership and performance in practice as evidence that he's ready. The consensus is building. The pressure is mounting. And the Browns are out of time. There's no waiting for a perfect moment anymore. The season is slipping. The team is frustrated. The offense is broken. And the longer Shedeur stays on the sidelines, the more obvious it becomes that the organization is paralyzed by indecision. This is how franchises lose their way. Not because they lack talent, but because they refuse to adapt. And what's most frustrating for fans is how easy the solution seems. Shedeur is an untested rookie with no upside. He's a composed, confident, highly capable quarterback with the pedigree, the poise, and the preparation. He's the son of one of the greatest athletes to ever touch a football field, and he plays like it. He doesn't need to be perfect. He just needs to spark something. Because right now, the Browns are sleepwalking through games, and the rest of the season depends on someone waking them up. It's not just about winning the next game. It's about taking control of the narrative. It's about showing the locker room, the fans, and the entire league that this team has the guts to make a bold move and commit to change. Because if they don't, the damage won't just be felt in the standings. It'll be felt in the culture, in the chemistry, in the faith fans have in leadership. This is a defining moment. And Shedeur Sanders has become the face of what could be a new chapter. It's not fair to put all of that on one young quarterback. But this is the NFL. Fair doesn't matter. Results do. And the Browns are standing on the edge of a decision that will either salvage the season or sink it completely. They can keep hoping things get better with the current plan, or they can act. Take the leap. Trust the guy who's been quietly proving he's ready. Every coach talks about culture, about leadership, about doing what's best for the team. This is where those words get tested. Because when the fans are done waiting, the players are losing patience, and your best option is sitting on the bench with a calm, locked-in look on his face. Not making a move starts to look like cowardice. And if this turns out to be the franchise-altering moment, it feels like the Browns will either be remembered for seizing it or for missing it entirely. So the question now isn't whether Shedeur Sanders should start. The question is what the Browns are willing to risk to find out what they really have. Because staying safe isn't safe anymore. And staying put, that's the real danger. Let us know what you think. Should the Browns hand the keys to Shedeur now? Or is the pressure getting ahead of the process? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you're keeping up with every twist of this quarterback saga. Because whether the Browns make the leap or not, one thing's clear. This story is only going to get louder. Even if Stefanski wanted to slow walk the transition, the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a fan favorite. He's become the only option in the eyes of many. The Browns who win their next game by 3 points with Gabriel throwing 2 touchdowns, and fans would still be asking, okay, but what if Shedeur had started? That's how far this has gone. This isn't a debate anymore. It's a movement. You can feel it in the tension after every 3 and out. You can see it in the body language of the offense. You can hear it in the stadium, where chants for Shedeur aren't even being drowned out by the play on the field, because the play on the field isn't giving people anything to cheer for. And that's the bottom line. This offense, as currently constructed, is uninspiring, flat, disconnected, and in a league where momentum and energy can swing entire games. It's baffling that the Browns are still clinging to a plan that has clearly hit a wall. But there's a deeper issue at play here, and it goes beyond the quarterback position. This controversy is exposing cracks in the entire organization's philosophy, the unwillingness to adapt, the hesitance to hand the reins to someone new, the fear of disrupting a system that, by all accounts, isn't working. That's not just a coaching issue. That's a culture issue. Great teams evolve. Great coaches know when to pivot. And great leaders know when it's time to let go of control and trust in the talent they've been cultivating behind the scenes. That's what makes the Shedeur Sanders situation so important. It's not just about a single player. It's about what kind of organization the Browns want to be. Are they forward-thinking? Are they bold? Or are they going to let outdated loyalty and fear of change keep them stuck in the same loop that's plagued them for years? This fan base has been through enough. They've endured endless rebuilds, false starts, and PR disasters. They've seen stars come and go. They've lived through quarterback rotations, so ridiculous they became memes. And now, with a clear path to something new and exciting, they're being asked to wait again? They're not having it. And the reaction to Deion Sanders' public statement only proves it. One confident sentence, just one, sent shockwaves through Cleveland. When Deion said Shedeur will get a shot, it didn't sound like a hopeful parent crossing his fingers. It sounded like a warning, like a countdown. And now, every game the Browns play with Gabriel under center feels like a delay, a stall tactic, an insult to what fans know in their gut. It's time. And here's what makes the situation so fragile. When that kind of energy builds up and the team refuses to acknowledge it, it creates a fracture, not just between fans and management, but within the locker room itself. And if the reports are accurate, if some veterans and even members of the coaching staff are starting to quietly question the decisions being made, then that fracture is already forming. That's how locker rooms unravel, not through blow-ups or drama, but through the slow erosion of belief. And the only thing that can reverse that? Leadership. Bold, decisive leadership. This is Stefanski's moment. Maybe the biggest one of his coaching career. Because how he handles this, how he responds to the rising noise, the internal whispers, and the overwhelming fan pressure will define his legacy in Cleveland and possibly determine how long he stays in that locker room. It's a brutal spot. No coach wants to be forced into a corner. No coach wants to make a move because the fans are chanting for it or because a player's parent is making headlines. But ignoring all of it doesn't make the problem go away. It just makes it worse because it's not just noise. It's momentum. It's chemistry. It's the future of the team. And as the days pass, Shedeur Sanders becomes more than just a potential starter. He becomes a line in the sand. The moment where the Browns decide what direction they're really going in. Do they double down on the old plan and hope for a miracle? Or do they acknowledge what everyone else already sees and take a leap forward? And let's not pretend this is some massive gamble. This isn't benching a proven franchise quarterback for a guy with no experience. This is replacing a struggling placeholder with a young quarterback who's already shown leadership, calm, and promise behind the scenes. This is answering weeks of bad offense with the only card left to play. What's the risk, really? That Shedeur struggles and needs time to adjust? Fine. At least then, the team is building something. At least then there's a purpose behind the growing pains. Right now, it just feels like stagnation, like dragging out the inevitable. And it's hard to sell patience to a city that's been patient for decades. This isn't about skipping the process or rushing a prospect. This is about energy, about belief, about direction. And when you have someone like Shedeur who's handled the storm of maturity, confidence, and focus, it's hard not to think he's the one who could lead the next chapter. Not because he's perfect, not because his last name guarantees success, but because he's earned it with his poise, with his preparation, with how he stayed ready while everything around him gets louder and louder. And maybe that's the most telling part. While the team flounders, the fan base erupts, and the coaching staff stalls, Shedeur hasn't blinked. That's leadership. He doesn't need to be the loudest voice. He doesn't need to be the savior. But right now, he's the only one showing signs of being ready for the moment. So what are the Browns waiting for? The season won't wait. The fans won't wait. And if the locker room starts slipping away, then nothing else matters. At some point, you have to stop holding your breath and make the move. And if the Browns don't, if they let this moment pass and stick with what clearly isn't working, then they'll have no one to blame when the team implodes. Not the fans, not the media, not Deion Sanders. Just themselves. Because they saw the warning signs. They heard the chants. They read the headlines. And they still look the other way. But the window for denial is closing fast. So what's it going to be, Cleveland? Keep waiting for a turnaround that's not coming? Or finally give this team and this city something to believe in again? You can feel it everywhere now. It's in the post-game boos, the tension in press conferences, the offhand comments from frustrated players, and the wall-to-wall media speculation. Cleveland isn't just talking about Shedeur Sanders anymore. They're waiting for him. And the fact that the organization hasn't made a move yet, that's only making things worse. Let's not pretend this is a typical QB controversy. This is a full-blown organizational identity crisis. Every additional snap Dylan Gabriel takes is another round of questions Kevin Stefanski can't afford to dodge anymore. Every stalled drive, every missed throw, every loss. It's all just gasoline on an already raging fire. And the fans? They're done being patient. They've seen this pattern before, and they know exactly where it leads. Now they're begging for change. Not for gimmicks. Not for a flash. Just for direction. And Shedeur Sanders? He's the direction everyone is looking toward. What's made this whole saga even more intense is how flawlessly Shedeur has handled the pressure. There's been no social media outbursts, no public frustration, no hint of arrogance. Just calm, control, and consistency. While the rest of the team looks increasingly uneasy, he's the one guy who's never looked rattled. That kind of presence is rare, especially for someone who hasn't even taken a real NFL snap yet. And that's why this whole thing feels different. Because usually, in these kind of controversies, the guy waiting in the wings is an unknown. But Shedeur, he already carries a reputation. Not just because of his name, but because of how he's conducted himself. Coaches see it. Players feel it. The media's picked up on it. And fans are absolutely locked in on it. That's what's made Deion Sanders' recent comments so powerful. The second he said Shedeur will get his shot this season, it flipped the tone of the entire debate. It wasn't just a possibility anymore. It became a promise. And when Deion speaks, it carries weight, not just because of his legacy, but because he understands the game on every level. So now the Browns are stuck between a fan base demanding a spark, a locker room reportedly pushing for change, and a quarterback on the bench who has every quality you'd want in a leader. And instead of acting, they're hesitating. That hesitation isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. Because this moment has become more than a coaching decision. It's a referendum on the franchise's ability to evolve. Are they going to stay stuck in outdated loyalty and fear of shaking things up? Or are they going to recognize that when the whole stadium is pointing in the same direction, maybe it's time to listen? At this point, it's not about Gabriel versus Sanders. It's about what message the team is sending by refusing to adapt. Because when you keep rolling out the same formula despite visible dysfunction, the message you're sending, intentionally or not, is that you're more committed to being right than being successful. And that is a devastating message to send, both inside the building and out. Let's talk about what's reportedly going on behind closed doors. Players, veterans, not rookies, are quietly questioning the offensive scheme. There's murmuring about inflexibility, about play calling that doesn't align with the talent on the roster, and most importantly, about the missed opportunities sitting just feet away on the sidelines. And here's the thing about NFL locker rooms. They're not blind. They see who's performing in practice. They see the energy in meetings, the way a guy commands a room, the way people respond to leadership. So when players start murmuring, it's not idle gossip. It's a signal that the room is shifting. And when that shift happens, coaches either adjust or lose the room entirely. The Browns are at the edge of that cliff right now. And if Stefanski doesn't read the signs correctly, he's going to find himself isolated. Because while he's trying to remain loyal to a plan he believes in, everyone else is signaling that they move on emotionally. Fans, analysts, and now, reportedly, even the people on his own staff. This team isn't broken beyond repair. Not yet, but it's fractured. And the way you fix a fracture is by acting decisively, not by taping it up and hoping it holds. That's what a move to Shedeur would represent. Not just a quarterback change, but a reset, a new energy, a way to show the team and the fans that this season still matters, that leadership is paying attention, that hope isn't just a word they throw around in press conferences, but a real strategy. Because make no mistake, the Shedeur-Sanders conversation is about more than talent. It's about hope. And for a franchise like Cleveland, where hope has been in dangerously short supply for years, that means everything. The longer they wait, the more they risk losing what little faith remains. And it's not like the switch would be coming out of nowhere. All signs point to Shedeur being ready. His performance in practice, his calm under pressure, his understanding of the game, and most importantly, his ability to lead without needing the spotlight. These are not minor things. These are foundational. So why the hesitation? Maybe it's fear of what happens if he's not immediately perfect. Maybe it's a reluctance to publicly admit that the original plan didn't work. Maybe it's just plain stubbornness. Whatever the reason, it's costing them. Because while they stall, the season is slipping away. Every week they don't make the change is a missed opportunity. Every week they keep the same stagnant offense on the field is another brick in the wall between the team and the people who support it. And let's be brutally honest. Shedeur-Sanders doesn't even have to be spectacular right away to justify the switch. He just has to bring something different, something new, a rhythm, a spark, a sense that the team isn't just coasting into the abyss. That alone would change everything. It would change the tone in the locker room. It would shift the mood in the fan base. It would turn Cleveland from a team stuck in controversy to a team moving through it. But for now, they remain in limbo, one foot in the past, one hand holding on to a plan that clearly isn't working, and a quarterback, young, composed, ready, just standing there, waiting for the moment that everyone else already knows is coming. What's taking so long? That's the question echoing from every corner of the fan base. It's being asked in bars, on podcasts, on every post with Brown's hashtag. What are they waiting for? Because whatever it is, it's starting to look like fear. And fear, more than anything, is what's keeping this team from turning the page. And that's what it's really about, isn't it? Turning the page. This is a chance to move forward, to stop surviving and start building. And whether Shedeur ends up being a long-term answer or not, he deserves the chance to prove it. The team deserves to know. The fans deserve to see it. And his coaching staff, they need to decide what kind of legacy they want to leave behind. One that stuck too long with a plan that wasn't working, or one that recognized when it was time to finally listen to their team, to their fans, to the future standing right in front of them. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is Shedeur the answer Cleveland's been waiting for, or is the franchise taking too big a risk too soon? And if you're here following every play, every headline, every twist in this saga, make sure you're subscribed. Because if this is the tipping point, we're all about to see what happens when a team finally makes the leap